Today I'd like to delve into the topic of how to effectively communicate on Twitter. If you've been living under a rock for the past decade, you might be wondering, what is Twitter? Well, let me lay it all out on the table for you. Twitter can be many things for many people. For example, it can serve as a virtual point of contact for many people within a community. You can send out a tweet for anyone in the world to see and receive a response in literally 5 seconds from a random troll 1,000 miles away reminding you that you forgot to punctuate your sentence. If you're looking for people with shared interests, you can quickly search buzzwords and chime in on interesting chatter that goes on 24/7. Or endlessly and unabashedly shit talk your favorite game developers when your favorite game isn't everything you wished it to be, because that's enjoyable. Finally, Twitter can be used as a source of information, news, and statistics. You can follow events going on around the world in real time. Businesses can pose polls to acquire quick and accurate data for marketing purposes. Governments can see what their people are up to so they can, assess and ensure the overall happiness of their citizens. Or follow whatever sort of high-minded concept that makes you feel like getting on Twitter is anything but diving into a cesspool of hysterical children in the world's most fanatical nutjobs. Now that you have a well-rounded idea of what Twitter has to offer, let's talk about how to present your case clearly, in true all-American fashion, which I swear has no negative connotations at all. Hey, while we're on the topic, have you noticed how commonly Americans talk about how dumb other Americans are, as though looking ourselves in the mirror and being like, dummy? Anyway, let's take this Twitter exchange for example. Just watch the political debate. Boy, it feels like liberals and conservatives will never agree on anything. Right, dude, imagine if instead of witch hunting and fault finding in the other side, we just tackled one issue at a time and offered solutions that would be in everyone's best interest. Yes, and if we had a more solution-oriented approach to politics, maybe then we could transition from being reactionary firefighters into proactive dream builders that set ourselves and future generations up for success. I think we should really reach out to our local representatives to make these suggestions, cast our ballots at the polls for more level-headed and cooperative candidates, and discuss these thoughts politely and non-threateningly among our colleagues to create the systematic change that we have all been asking for. Great idea, dude. I think I'll do just that. Now you see how these delightful tweeters raised an issue and discussed it calmly while offering solutions to combat the issue without even attacking anyone? This sort of behavior we'll never do on Twitter. This is what a real Twitter exchange looks like. Just watched a bunch of dumbass American politicians fight each other like pack wolves, further perpetuating a cycle of friction that's leading into our socioeconomic peril. Well, if lazy libtards weren't defunding the police, decriminalizing drug gangs, and sitting on their asses at home receiving food stamps, welfare, and unemployment checks instead of doing the real work in the military to fight for freedom, there wouldn't be so much friction. Bro, you kidding me, right? If it wasn't for crony conservative douchebags serving the interests of wealthy corporations, wasting everybody's time by restricting women's right to choose, throwing Bibles at the LGBT community, and gerrymandering to invalidate minority votes, it wouldn't be so difficult to find common ground with y'all. Bruh, both parties are run by corrupt assholes who only care about money and power. There's literally no point in doing anything about it. Just smoke weed and get more bitches, cause it don't matter. Are you serious, mate? It's you indolent dolts hiding in caves that are the reason your country's fallen apart. Now you see how after raising an issue, at every stop the next person just continued to attack the other and escalate further and further into insanity? That is the quintessential snapshot of what it's like getting on Twitter. Remember these key tricks. Number 1, always come out of the gate swinging. You're throwing cheap shots at the other side to compromise their integrity, not to compromise to find a middle ground. What kind of world would we live in if we actually met in the middle? Sheesh. Number 2, don't emphasize or show any remote level of comprehension of an opinion that doesn't align with your own. Signs of higher intelligence include being able to understand and see commonalities throughout different perspectives, but you're not here engaging in petty pride battles on Twitter to be a smart guy. You can only be here to demonstrate how much more right you are than someone else. Finally, always leave a situation at a net negative. You can't stand those uppity peace talks coming from UN officials and those harmonious Disney child stars you love to relentlessly hate until they inevitably have a mental breakdown and become incorrigible divas using drugs and alcohol to escape the pain of being constantly chastised by the tabloids before they even fully reach puberty. After all, you'd much rather every comment you make be followed by endless attacks to your intelligence and character rather than someone saying, "I may not agree with everything you're saying, but I at least understand where you're coming from."
Never.
Forget an innovating, intellectually progressing society. The only direction we're going is back to the good old days of Salem witch hunting and bragging about how much more cattle we have than our neighbors. Alright, so obviously that's all satire. Just throw that out. If I can be completely serious and take a moment to discuss the deeply embedded sociological tendencies of people when they use social media outlets like Twitter, everyone wonders why it's turned into such a dumpster fire for vitriol and hysteria. There are many factors that contribute to this, but they all seem to work in tandem, rather than there being any one source. First of all, people view Twitter as a place to vent. Workers come home from a long shift and vent about how miserable their day was. TV show viewers take to Twitter to share their disappointment with how the season finale was. Most crucially, people who have collectively witnessed something truly awful or heartbreaking will post videos and recount their individual experiences on Twitter at lightning speed, leading to mass hysteria and outrage all at once before anyone has time to piece together what really happened or who's responsible for what. This inevitably leads to Twitter being a central hub to the world's frustrations, so it gains its reputation. Now, since nearly every celebrity has amassed a large following on Twitter, so have politicians. Yikes. But well, maybe that's one way to stay connected with all your favorite and most hated political figures. You will find that they too, often in a fury, will post their stances on current or prospective legislation, infamous court rulings, the fact that the president is playing golf badly and taking pictures at celebrity dinners during a rapidly accelerating recession, yada yada. But the point is, Twitter has become a vehicle for advancing political positions. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but it goes without saying that once you bring politics to the table, everyone's in an uproar. Lastly, as much as we'd like to think so, maintaining some sort of social etiquette on the internet is extremely difficult to do. Twitter management had taken drastic measures in the past to suppress hate speech and dangerous individuals from unleashing their horrors on the world. It seemed individuals were being banned left and right for rousing the people, but this seemed to backfire. Not with Twitter having been bought outright by a certain mad genius who refers to himself as a free speech absolutist, there likely won't be any radical suppression like that anytime soon. So, what can anyone do about Twitter's current state of operations? We already know the casual Twitter user probably isn't worried about the big picture. They simply use Twitter for whatever implicit purpose they have, not with any conscious motive in mind. And those who do take to Twitter to exact critical social justice or troll celebrities for the lulz aren't likely to slow down when confronted. That being said, unless every individual using Twitter sought to educate themselves on the nature of human interaction and how it relates to their psychology, how to discuss social issues with empathy and without bias, and how to research information using legitimate sources in order to make an effective argument that is both sound and valid, which we all know is not likely to happen, that leaves it up to every individual to decide what to do about it on an individual basis. One person isn't going to fix Twitter. 100 people aren't going to fix Twitter. But each person can take crucial steps to proctor their individual experience with Twitter to make it more of what they want it to be. First of all, check the people you follow. When they tweet, do they actively use aggressive, combative language to rile people up? If so, think about the impression that leaves on people, whether they agree with said tweeter or not. Their entire Twitter feed will be filled with bad takes and aggravated individuals, but just how effective is that in discussing or understanding any issue? Follow people who demonstrate fair analysis and attract positive thinking. If you find yourself tempted to come to Twitter to take a stance on an issue, take a moment to contemplate how your words will be perceived by the community. People appreciate when you acknowledge them as an individual. Conversely, they hate when you lump them under a blanket of social terms like liberal, conservative, communist, art freak, nerd, loser, whatever. But when you say something, better to offer suggestions or solutions rather than sit there and critique every little thing someone says. If you truly want to help, say something helpful. Also, what you can do to set yourself up for success is come into every situation realizing you're not likely to change anyone's mind. You're not likely to win any arguments, and 9 times out of 10, even the most reasonable takes will be met with harsh, unreasonable criticism. Pick and choose your battles. Read through a trending topic with the understanding that there will be a wide stratification of viewpoints, and not all of them are worth combating. You can easily encourage viewpoints that demonstrate empathy and solid logical reasoning by simply liking their tweets. Discourage the not so logical ones by completely ignoring them. The very act of responding and retweeting horrible Twitter takes is what propels some of the most outrageously bad tweets to the top of people's Twitter feeds. Let it go and save your discussion for those who actually have something positive to offer. That being said, Twitter has awesome potential to be a fun and informative social media platform, but it is its users who determine what our actual experience will be like on the platform. It's a place where people from all around the world can come together to share ideas, collaborate on projects, start businesses, and even share in the lives of their favorite celebrities and content creators, if you're into that sort of thing. Twitter is by all means a great tool that serves many purposes. We just need to be very mindful of our individual behavior while we delight in all the things it has to offer.